Welcome to the Jammin' Show. My name is Ben Villers, and I'm a fitness trainer here in Los Angeles, California. Welcome to my show. I appreciate y'all tuning in. And today we're diving into the science of red light therapy, what it is, how it works, how you can implement it on your day-to-day basis, and how you can implement it into your recovery methods if you are actively working out. I'm joined by CEO Scott Chaverri of Mito Red Light, and Mito Red Light is one of the leading companies bringing this technology to everyday people. I've gotten the opportunity to look at their website and their products, and they seem really cool. I'm excited to learn more. Thanks, Scott, for jumping on the show. How are you doing today?
I'm fantastic, man. How are you doing?
I'm good. Busy, training clients, getting this organized, but I'm really looking forward to talking about this because I don't really know so much about red light therapy. I know I've got some red lights in my room. I got some colored lights. Yep. So I play with those. I don't know if that counts.
Probably not, but
probably not. But tell me a little bit about your background. So you're the CEO of Mito Red Light, but your background, it wasn't obvious that you were going to get here. So you were in psychology and you were in finance, but now you're in red lights. Tell me a little bit about that and why you made that commitment.
Sure. So, right. My educational background, I studied psychology in the 90s at Cornell. I got an MBA in 2004 and went into finance, mainly because I realized I didn't want to be a psychologist. And so when you're in your 20s and you don't know what to do, you go get an MBA. And so but corporate, and I've always been kind of a math guy, good with numbers. So finance seemed like a good career path. And so I worked in finance for about 15 years, 2004 to 2020, I guess 16 years. But for me, it was never a passion. It was more of just a career path, a paycheck. And so I'd always been interested in health and wellness, always wanted to have my own business, be an entrepreneur. And it was just a matter of finding the right path and also having a catalyst. So part of the story is that in 2016, my 2-year-old son was diagnosed with cancer and went through hell for about a year to 2 years, just dealing with that. He's 11 now. He's doing great. He's my hero.
Great.
But yeah, just the trauma and the stress of that experience, we say this all the time, tomorrow's not promised to anybody, but when you see your 2-year-old son fighting for his life, it really hits home. And I just decided that I just didn't want to do something that I wasn't passionate about any longer. And so that was really the catalyst. We had to get through that storm when he was sick. And actually part of the red light story is that in 2017, I started using red light mainly because I had massive caregiver fatigue from the stress of dealing with his illness. And I just noticed that it helped me personally sleeping and just helping my mood and helping me kind of deal with the stress. And so in 2018, I actually wanted to buy more lights because I wanted more, I was spending a lot of time spinning around in front of the light, trying to treat my whole body. And I actually had sticker shock at how much they cost back then. And I just said to myself, I wonder if I can build these things lower cost. And so prototype for 6 months, and turns out I could. And so in 2019, I launched the company with just 3 basic SKUs, very simple light boxes is what our original kind of products were, but a lot of red and near infrared light, which is what you need. Very kind of no frills products. And it's been a crazy ride ever since. The business has really taken off. I think I was very lucky from a timing perspective in terms of, I think a lot more people know what red light is today than certainly they did 7 years ago. Definitely. And it's becoming much more mainstream.
So you had a health concern with your son, you had a health concern with you, and you really weren't very into what you were doing. So you decided to go all in on red light therapy, the business. But wasn't that overhead and wasn't that all like a really scary time for you, besides just the health, but business wise? Was that a scary time to make that commitment? Because it's a lot of equipment and development of hardware, is it not?
It was. I mean, thankfully I'm pretty old, so I just turned 50. So
Happy birthday.
the nice thing about working 15 years in corporate finance is I saved up. I had some capital available to invest, to do prototyping, to do product development. Um, and I grew the company very conservatively, so I just very didn't spend a lot on advertising and just kind of organically invest back into the company. So I try not to take a lot of financial risk. But to your point, yes, it was terrifying. I mean, I also needed to make sure I had health insurance for my son at the time, because if God forbid, he ever got sick again, I think his first round of treatment was like $2 million in bills, and there's
Wow.
just no way I could be able to pay for that. So you need health insurance, and so it
Sure.
was terrifying. But at the same time, like yeah, I was scared. But when I watched like what my 2-year old son went through, and just kind of the courage and the fortitude that this little baby had dealing with this terminal illness, I just had to kind of deal with the fear. I mean, and there was just kind of like, you just failure was not an option.
For sure. So were you just over the finance space? Were you just like, I can't do this anymore, I'm all in? Or like, or just like your passion for helping your son and others, like that was more important to you?
It was definitely, well, it was both. It was
Yeah.
both. Yeah, I think there are a lot of folks that are just not happy with whatever career they find themselves in. I mean, it's just the way it is. And so, and I always had a side hustle. So
Mm.
like, and that was part of it. Like, I was never super engaged or super enthusiastic about whatever job I had. So I always had some sort of side hustle. And so this was maybe like side hustle number 7 in my, in my journey. But again, I think, I was fortunate in identifying white space in an industry that had really hadn't grown that much yet, still very much a niche industry. And so timing was definitely helpful. But then also, I think, like, we built a good product, right? Like, I mean, the products actually help people. They actually enjoy using them, and that definitely helps. I think getting that kind of feedback, it also helps to when we get that kind of feedback, it helps deal with the kind of the difficult days. It's like it's like, oh, that I'm feeling so much better. And, when you get that type of feedback, it's like, okay, well, I feel good about what I'm doing every day. And that helps you push through when it gets hard.
Absolutely. I could totally relate to that as a personal trainer. So, for someone who's never heard of it or lacks the understanding, please explain to us, like we're talking to like an infant, what is red light therapy in simple terms?
So, well, in simple terms, it's part of the solar spectrum. So it's really part of the light that we get naturally from the sun. And I would position it as kind of the safest part of the solar spectrum. So, just to get a little bit granular, when you think about sunlight and the solar spectrum, in science, we break it up into 3 kind of main buckets. You've got ultraviolet light, which is high energy light. And most people are familiar with ultraviolet light and vitamin D. So, like, UVB is needed, shine on the skin, stimulates the body to make vitamin D. Then you have visible light, which is the light we can see. And that's, high school physics, Roy G. Biv. You shine light through a prism and you get these different colors of the rainbow. That's the light we can see. And it's in wavelengths, it's 400 nanometers to 700 nanometers, the wavelength. And then we have infrared, which is again invisible, and that's roughly 700 nanometers up to about 10,000 nanometers. And infrared is divided into near, mid, and far. So when we're talking about red light therapy, typically we're talking about the visible part of the spectrum above 600 nanometers ish, which is kind of orange, up to 650 nanometers, which is a deep red, up until 700 nanometers, and then you get into near infrared. And typically in these devices, they go up to about 900 to 1,000 nanometers wavelength of near infrared. And so it's this very kind of narrow part of the solar spectrum that has unique biological properties. And the main thing is that the wavelengths are long enough to penetrate into the body and not get absorbed by water. So most people are familiar with infrared sauna, and sometimes people get confused. They say infrared is an infrared sauna. It's actually not infrared sauna. Infrared sauna is using mid and far infrared, Those are much longer wavelengths, and they're absorbed by water, and that generates heat. That's why they're used in the sauna, right? So you're essentially heating the body from the inside out. The water in your body is absorbing the infrared from the sauna and generating heat. The parts of the red light therapy that are used in devices like ours, no water absorption, or practically no water absorption, which means that the light can get deep into the body. And okay, so that's part A of the story, is that these part of wavelengths can penetrate deep into the body. Part B is like, okay, what are they doing once they're penetrating deep into the body? And what they seem to be doing is getting harnessed by the mitochondria. The mitochondria are the power plants of the cells. Hence the name, actually, Mito, red light, is Mito short for mitochondria.
Okay.
So the wavelengths of light are getting absorbed by the mitochondria. There's a specific chromophore in the mitochondria. Chromophore is a fancy word for a light absorbing molecule. It's called cytochrome C oxidase. It's absorbing these specific wavelengths of light. It's decoupling from nitric oxide inside the mitochondria so that it can bind with oxygen and finish making ATP, which is the cellular energy, essentially. So this is the most talked about mechanism. I mean, there are other mechanisms of action about what's happening that we're aware of anyway, when red and near infrared light go into the body. But what we see is an increase in ATP production in the cells. And ATP, again, is cellular energy. And so kind of the short answer to what's happening is that your cells are making more energy, and hence they can function better. They can do their jobs better. And so it's really just your body's supporting your body's natural processes, and very specifically energy production by the mitochondria, so your cells function better. And so and that's what we see. And so that's why we see this field is called photobiomodulation. It's a long word for how light interacts with biology. But we see photobiomodulation studies across all different areas, whether it's hair growth, skin health, performance and recovery, wound healing. And it's essentially because if the cell has mitochondria, there's potential for it to benefit from exposure to the light. And then one other thing that I'll add, and then I'll kick it back to you, is that one of the reasons why I think this industry has exploded over the past 10 years or so is that we're spending so much time indoors. Again, like these wavelengths of light are available to us on anytime the sun is above the horizon. Essentially, you're getting red and near infrared light.
So like sunset or sunrise.
Right. So the reason why sunset and sunrise tend to be orange or red is because the shorter wavelengths of the rainbow get filtered out by the particulate in the atmosphere. So that's what we see. What gets to us is only the longer wavelengths, which are red and orange. But anytime the sun is above the horizon, infrared and red are getting to us, which means that our ancestors who are outside all day long were getting exposed to red and near infrared light all day long. And in our modern lives, I mean, you're inside, I'm inside right now, even though I try to put a forest behind me. I'm not getting red and near infrared light. I'm getting a little bit from that halogen lamp I have up there, and then I specifically have a halogen lamp because it emits red and near infrared light. But most of us are massively red and near infrared light deficient, in my opinion, because our bodies are designed to be outside in the sun pretty much all day. And now modern life has us inside all day.
So would you say that red light, though, is specifically available all day, or in those horizon times more specifically?
So all day. On balance, you're getting mostly red and near infrared early in the day. Then when the sun gets to like at zenith at noon, you're still getting red and near infrared, but now you're also getting blue and ultraviolet.
Sure.
So you're getting all of the wavelengths of the sun. Whereas, and that's why this has to do with circadian signaling and why you don't want blue light and short wavelength light late in the day, because you're confusing your body about what time it is. Because normally you'd only get blue and UV midday, mostly, and then and sunrise, sunset, predominantly red and near infrared, and then obviously after sunset you're not getting anything. So yes, so you're getting red and near infrared all day long. Bottom line, it's just UV and blue that you're predominantly getting only at around midday.
That totally makes sense. I mean, it really does. In general, we're told to go outside and get some vitamin D. We're told to get some sunlight. but that's not drinking, that's not eating, that's not taking supplementation. That's just our skin absorbing the light from the sun. So to a degree, it definitely makes a lot of sense that this specific type of light, the lighting, can have a health benefit because just us being in the sun and doing nothing, just being in the sun, has its own health benefits, right?
Yes,
So
absolutely. So we know that we know the vitamin D story for one. We know anecdotally too. I mean, being outside in the sun just feels good,
for
right? I mean,
sure.
like you just want to be out. You go out there like, man, I should spend more time outside. Like
Well,
I
I
say that
do
to myself.
feel like when I stand in the sun for a bit of time, I feel like I've got a lot more energy, a
Yeah,
lot
there you go. There you
more
go.
when I stand out in the sun for even just like a little bit of time. I definitely noticed that for sure. And I mean, and it makes sense. Again, like, we have the benefits of good sound where we don't have to do anything. And then we've got the benefits of good lighting, two things that our body absorbs and responds to. But I think there's a lot of skepticism amongst people in general because they can't see that what's
Yep.
happening. It's in the details. And I can relate to this when I'm breaking down details in fitness and wellness. And they're just like, yeah, whatever, not that important. And it's like, it is that important. These details make a huge difference. And by putting it all together, you can really have some really excellent results.
Well, I totally agree with you, and we still run into skepticism. And I that's why I really like to try to explain the macro and the micro. And to me, the macro story is our ancestors were outside all day long,
Mm-hmm.
and we're inside all day long. That's just the reality. So just on the face, you can understand that you're probably sunlight deficient, at least relative to the environment that our ancestors evolved in for hundreds of thousands or millions of years. And so right there, and I think most people would agree that they probably should get more sunlight than they do, right? And it's a lifestyle issue with the fact that our jobs require us to work indoors. But just from that vantage point, you can say, well, if you accept the premise that we are deficient in sunlight, does it make sense to potentially supplement in a safe manner? And I think that it does. And so that's where devices like ours come in. Like they're again, the safest part of the spectrum that you can supplement very kind of conveniently and safely.
I really liked what you just said, supplementing the lighting. I think that's very relatable to everybody. People need to supplement their nutrition all the
Yep.
time. And again, lighting, I just think is overlooked except for sun. And a lot of people accept it and it is what it is, or they take the time to go outside and get some sun. But so red light, Mito red light, um, infrared sauna, or even the hardware that you use, it's a form of supplementation to lighting that our body benefits from.
That's right. And my first piece of advice would always be try to spend more time outside. But the
Sure.
reality is, I mean, even I live and breathe this stuff, and I don't get outside enough. And so, and again, I have a stressful job or whatever. I can make excuses, but the reality is, I don't get outside nearly as much as I want to or I should. And so, I do red light every day to try and compensate for that. There's also the fact that depending on where you live, I mean, I live in Scottsdale, you live in LA. We get a lot of sun, but boy, if you live in Seattle or in the Northeast, you may not be as lucky as we are, and so it's just not available as often. So I think having a high quality red and near infrared LED device in the modern age makes a lot of sense.
So if you're someone who does go outside and gets a lot of sun, is getting red light, infrared, your product, like, is that something that you would still recommend as like an add-on? Or if you're someone who's getting a lot of sun on a day-to-day basis, you don't really need this or won't really reap as much benefits from this?
It's an interesting question, and I do think the reality is that the reality is like the remaining hunter gatherer tribe on the planet. I think it's called the Hadza tribe. I don't know that the Hadza would benefit that much from our products. They're outside all day. They're living like our ancestors did. On the margins, I don't think they're going to benefit that much at all. And except my one caveat to that would be if one of them had an injury or something, like if they broke a bone or like had an ankle sprain or something. I do think like an acute use of a well-designed red and near-infrared light could accelerate potentially the healing of that thing. But from like a day-to-day basis, they probably don't need it. You know, they're fine. They're getting plenty of red and near infrared. But the reality is that 99.9% of us are not living like that. And unless you have a job, I don't know, if you're a landscaper or maybe a UPS driver, I don't know, like if that requires you to be outside all day long, I think that you would probably benefit.
So yeah, really tying back into this idea that it's really a great supplementation method. You know, it's very relatable to so many different topics that we've talked about, protein and really the most protein and creatine, right? And these are just people use these supplements because they don't get a lot of them from their day to day. If they do get a lot of them from their day to day, does it make a lot of sense to be taking protein if you're already eating the amount of grams you need? No, not necessarily. And does it make a lot of sense for you to have an extra creatine in your body if you're not performing at high intensity levels? No, not really either, right? So similar, so great way for everyone to understand here, because I'm new to this information as well. I'm kind of old school. I don't look old. I'm 33. I'm not that old. I'm getting older. And I was, doing football and varsity sports before the social media era. So, we got a lot of benefits from just like traditional methods. And I think a lot of people will be like, if I got results that way, I don't really need all these things. But and maybe you don't, but again, to really conceptualize what we're talking about here, this red light therapy to me seems like a really great supplementation method. If you are someone who does not get outside enough or is not getting enough exposure to the sun, the reason why this is really important, though, is because our bodies are absolutely meant to be outside. We're meant to get sunlight. Our skin is an organ. Our body responds very, very differently when we are inside or outside all the time, or even if it's a blend between the two. So it absolutely makes a lot of sense to me now that if you're someone who's not getting the lighting that you need, or you're someone who's always getting indoor lighting, then you might be a perfect candidate for this type of product and service. But even more so now, let's gear it a little bit more towards fitness and health and wellness in particular. So let's say someone gets just a decent amount of sunlight, but they're also very, very active. They lift weights, they do cardio, whatever it is that they do. What are the benefits of red light therapy for those types of people who are very active?
Well, I think the same line of thinking that you just explained with respect to the demands that you're putting on your body, requiring more creatine and more protein, that exact same line of thinking extends to red and near infrared light. So if you're getting a moderate amount of sunlight, but you're putting really large demands on your body because you're training hard, then I would say that you should definitely consider supplementing with red and near infrared light to help recover from the training bouts, right? So I think I would view it on a spectrum, and it just the more training you're doing and the less sunlight you're getting, the more that you're going to benefit from adding red and near infrared light into your life. There's also this idea about infrared radiation improving sleep. It's actually pretty exciting. So I don't know if you're familiar with the idea that infrared radiation, infrared light from the sun or from a device like ours, goes into the cells, increases the mitochondrial energy production, but it also increases oxidative stress. And so in response to that, it's thought that your mitochondria make their own melatonin. And because melatonin is a powerful antioxidant, to put out or to mitigate the oxidative stress that's just a natural byproduct of increased ATP production. But that increase in melatonin is known as the sleep hormone. You can build a reservoir of melatonin throughout the day, and you actually we're seeing that people are getting better sleep, and sleep is super important.
Right.
I think and your audience knows that the training is really the beginning of improving performance. It's really the recovery from the training that matters, right? And so getting the good sleep, getting the good nutrition to rebuild the muscle tissue, like that's really where the gains are made, right? So you, and to the extent if you can improve sleep, you're going to have much better performance and recovery.
Well, I think one thing that I understand is that when you're inside all the time and your rhythms, your body's rhythms are not working as well. They get messed up when you're inside all the time. It's pretty much what I'm trying to say, right? So when you're inside all the time, it's very normal for someone to struggle to sleep.
Yep.
So by getting some of this lighting or even going outside, it can help you. So going outside in the day and getting that lighting can help you sleep better because it helps with your body's natural rhythm, just
Right.
knowing that what part of the day it is. So if you are someone who's inside all the time, the red light therapy can help rebalance your out of touch systems because you are inside all the time. Does that make sense?
It does. I would just add a little clarification on that. First of all, like there's this idea, which I think is a good one, that really a good night's sleep starts with early morning light. So as soon as you wake up, trying to get outside and just tell your body, hey, it's morning, it's 6:30, 7 a.m. Like that's you're kind of rebooting your circadian rhythm, for lack of a better term. And then trying to get outside as much as you can periodically throughout the day. Again, just for that circadian signaling, especially midday, like when it's noon and all that bright light and all those wavelengths of light are raining down on you, that's an important circadian signal. But then the flip side of that, and I learned this the hard way because I had really bad insomnia for a long time, is avoiding bright light after sunset, right?
Right.
So because otherwise you're confusing your body about what time it is. So like good circadian signaling is, yes, early morning sun, trying to get out periodically during the day, and then at the after sunset, avoiding bright light. And really like the ideal biohack, if you will, is red or amber lights low to the ground. All right. Think about a fire, like an ancestral fire, like the only lighting we would have had for 300,000
Oh yeah,
years
it makes a lot
would
of
have been
sense.
a fire, and not a big bright overhead light that's raining down blue light on you like it's noon. Just a very gentle amber red light low to the ground, because even the receptors that are involved with the circadian signaling, they're on the bottom back of your eyeball. They're there to detect light up above you. And so what you want to do is have light low to the ground, and also have it be relatively dim. And generally speaking, red and amber lights are going to be dim. And so that's the ultimate kind of like sleep strategy, in my opinion.
Like, can I just use like regular colored red lights or amber lights at home? Like, does that kind of give a similar vibe? I heard that just like red lights in general, because before this episode, I've heard in general that just red light is good for you. So if I turned on my
Yes.
colored lamp and made it red in the evening versus like your product, like do I get similar like circadian rhythms, or no?
Yeah. So first of all, my house is completely red at night, and maybe a little bit of orange, because sometimes the red is a little bit too dim, and to actually move about and see and do things, you need a little
In
bit
the
brighter.
evenings, I hate lights in my apartment. I'm absolutely rocking with different colors and dim all the time. And in the morning, I actually don't even shower with the lights on. I have like the hallway light on. I crack the door open, and like I'm practically still sleeping in the morning. So yeah, early in the morning and late night, I hate the light. So I totally get that. But yeah, continue with the question. Yep.
So, so the you're doing it right if you do red and amber after sunset, in the sense that you're safeguarding your circadian rhythm, and you're not disrupting it by confusing your body with bright light at a time where you would not normally be exposed to it. So that's the right way to do it. It's not going to give you a kind of the therapeutic benefit of our lights, which are super bright, red and near infrared lights,
And
delivering a lot of
like
photons to the
yeah,
body.
and like amplified with like technology. There's like some type of like amplification behind it.
Oh yeah, I mean we have focusing lenses literally. So there's a piece. I mean the construction is actually pretty simple. PCB board with LEDs mounted on them, and then there are focusing lenses on top of the LEDs, literally capturing the light energy and trying to direct it out toward the user. And we're trying to get like if you turn them on, they're very, very bright. We're trying to deliver a meaningful amount of light in a reasonable amount of time, right? So because nobody wants to sit in front of this for an hour a day, so we're trying to get a meaningful amount of light, which is measured in joules. It's the technical term for energy per unit time, in about 10 minutes, right? And so we just want to make it easy to use. About 10 minutes for most people is going to be a good way to supplement. But again, these are super bright. There's a lot of light energy entering the body, very different than kind of the ambient, soft red lights you would use, which are really the purpose for those is, again, to just safeguard your circadian rhythm and not disrupt it.
So like just those nice colored lights that I have in my living room, it's just a good circadian rhythm, touch, but it's because it's not that powerful. It's just a light. It's not like my body's not really absorbing anything.
That's right.
As if it's like a vitamin D sunlight.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, there's just not much that's going to happen therapeutically just because it's way too low powered. But it is a good lighting choice.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think it really ties down to people lacking the details. A lot of times people are focused on the basics, which is, movement and diet, consumption and movement. But I think two very underrated aspects of our health is hearing, the energy we hear, the tone, the vibrations we hear, what we put inside of our body with sound and tone, and what we absorb through our skin. I think skin is even more maybe under the radar because I think I've had some more conversations about tone and rhythm, but and red light therapy is definitely trending, but there's a lot of people in the world, and I think a lot of people don't even think about supplementing health into their skin, besides just the basic sun or like a cream or a lotion. But again, a cream and a lotion is not the same as the light coming from the sun, which is meant to be healthy for us. So I think this is really good that we're highlighting this and bringing attention to this, because I think it fits that category of being very underthought of in regards to how to optimize our health.
I totally agree with you. I mean, that's why I was at a conference last week, and one of the questions, I was on a panel, and so one of the questions the moderator asked is, which of the 4 pillars of health and wellness do you think will be the biggest in the next 10 years? And she was like, diet, exercise, sleep, or stress management, I think were the 4. And I said, neither. I think it's going to be light, because I think that nobody's talking about the importance of light and health. And so that's kind of why I was there. Of course, I'm a little biased, but because I own a light company. But
you got into the light company for a certain reason, though. You're not just born into a light company industry, right? You developed it with a mission behind it.
That's true. I mean, absolutely. And also because there's a need for it, right? I mean, like there's a reason why the industry has grown so much and why our company has grown so much. It's because we're solving a problem, and because there's a huge need for it. Really, the next step for me is the ambient lighting too. Our products are meant to be used therapeutically for 10 minutes a day, and it's a lot of bright light into the body. But I also have a big problem with all of the lighting that most people are exposed to for 12 hours a day. Totally. It's not designed for our biology. It's terrible. And so we need to fix that.
Yeah, again, it makes a lot of sense, guys. So really coming down to like the mission here is definitely go and get some more sunlight, right? So get more sunlight. But in general, being inside all the time, like right now, I'm surrounded by lights, like very bright lights, and it would be not good to have them blasting on me all day. And part of the reason why this industry is growing is because our skin absorbs light. The colors that we see, it's just this crazy scientific equation that makes the color a certain color. Why the sky is blue, why the dirt is brown, why the leaves are green. People could even make an argument that is that even the actual color that we see, right? Because of color blindness, right? We got people who can't even see certain colors because of the different pigmentations and things going inside of our body. So color and lighting is very, very interesting, and it's definitely overlooked because it's just like invisible. It's just invisible, but it makes a lot of sense why, even though I didn't know much about this going into today, why people enjoy having colored lights in their home. Even though it's nowhere near as powerful, it's just more like rhythmic for our body. And I think this even ties to like people staying up late at night and watching TV. You know, they need to get this fix for something, but really if they had throughout the day and the weeks done a better job of keeping a good rhythm, what you people will actually notice is that you can go to bed earlier and wake up earlier really easily. But the reason why people struggle to wake up early or have ADD and need to like stay up and watch TV all night is because they're trying to get that fix, but they're not getting the fix that they want because they're not getting the healthy habits that they need to get into their body. If it would be hard for me to believe that if someone was like, you know, doing their exercise, eating right, getting some sunlight, and listening to the right people, like I doubt they're going to go home and watch like a lot of Netflix in the evenings and stay up late and like sleep until like 10 o'clock. I have a hard time believing that those habits would tie into you being up late and sleeping in an excessive amount of time.
Well, I agree with that. I mean, it's all related, right? And so that I try to relate this to people, and really it's just about creating good habits. I mean, habiting your life, because so when it's a habit, you know, it doesn't require willpower anymore. And so it's just you know, so that, you know, for me, not eating donuts is not doesn't require willpower. It's just a habit. Like it's just eating donuts is not something that I do. So like I don't have to like exercise any willpower to not do that. And so with the extent that you can build these healthy habits into your life, you will just slowly and but surely make better and better decisions in your life. And you know, binge watching Netflix from 10 a.m. to 3 a.m. or 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. is probably not the best decision, generally speaking. And you may decide, and but it'll be easier for you to not do that if you, like you said, if you're making the better decisions during the day to set you up for success when you get to that point. The other thing I'll say is, boy, that bright light off that television is terrible for your circadian rhythm.
Totally.
And and we've got these giant, even bigger and bigger TV screens now. And you know, just at a minimum, turn down the brightness, make the color temperature warmer, and try to reduce. And then or wear blue blocking glasses at night, or do all three. But boy, I'm so I'm so far removed from that if I go over somebody's house and I'm there after sunset and they put on the TV, it hurts my eyes. Like I am just not used to that big bright screen, that much light, especially in a dark environment.
Are you kind
I
of like
actually
that
find it
guy?
extremely uncomfortable.
Are you kind of like that guy who goes to people's homes and whatnot, and like if the lighting's off, you're like, nah, I can't be.
I'm not that bad because well, you know, I'm a little bit of a light snob, but I won't do that. Like I won't rank on anybody's lighting environment, but you know, I might give them some suggestions.
Yeah.
But certainly, the television is just the number one offender in terms of really messing up your sleep.
Or the phone.
The phone too. At least the phone is smaller, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the thing of the TV. I mean, it's a lot of light, and it just it's way too
Yeah,
much.
I'm definitely not like this perfect angel or nothing, but I talk to my clients, and when you're a personal trainer, you have a lot of just like conversation with clients. And a lot of times I'm asked like, what am I watching? And I'm really not watching that much. You know, when I get home from work, you know, unless I'm getting home, like I work till late usually, to be honest. So when I get home, it's like I don't really have this desire to really sit down and watch TV because I don't like I'm tired. And I feel like by me being active all day and me going outside the way I do, it helps me not get this urge to watch TV or be on my phone. Like I'll have people text me at like 8 or 8:30 at night, but I won't even respond until the next day. Not because like I plan this. It's just I have no desire to look at my phone. And I think a lot of people, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because a lot of people, when they go home, like binge on their phone or binge on their TV. But I feel like you can, this is not a great habit to do, guys. So how you can really help reduce this is by continuing to do all of the right things the
Yep.
best that you can. And then you don't really have this urge to do it. Like sometimes, yes, like, if I have so many hours of free time, sure, I'm guilty of watching some stuff. But when you're on this like schedule workflow, you shouldn't feel like you have this urge to binge your phone and TV at the end of the day. The odds are, if you are doing that, you're doing some type of work that's not as fulfilling, or you're doing something that's really like indoorsy, and you're kind of itching at the home to like do something. But if your body's working in a good rhythm, you should just want the desire to like rest and go to
Yeah.
bed. I think this is where the red light therapy can come really clutch by exposing yourself. I don't know, how many times a week would you say is optimal for somebody to be exposed to red light? Is it more a quantity game? Is it more of a like the intensity game? Like what's like the perfect balance here of exposure?
Well, that's a good point. Like you don't want to overdo it. And exercise is a great analogy because it is a stress to the cells. So more is not necessarily better. So we recommend 3 to 6 times a week. Three is really at the minimum. You do have to do it regularly. It's just like working out, right? You can't work out once a month and think that you're really gonna get
And
a
it's
lot of
like getting
progress.
sunlight. It's like getting sunlight. They say go out every day, every day.
Right. So I personally do 6 times a week. I take Sundays off. Um, but I would say try to do it 5 to 6 times a week. I think is a good amount, and I think strategically taking some days off is also probably a good idea. Just like exercise, I mean, I think regular moderate exercise or even regular intense exercise if you're in shape is good, but like running a marathon every day is not good. And so similarly, you wouldn't want to use these devices for hours a day. It's not necessary to overdo it, but you do need to use them regularly to get the benefit.
So if it's just like fitness and exercise, then how I think the best way to use it then would be on. So I guess with the light, you can crank up the intensity, right? Like
Yeah.
light, yeah. So if that's the case, daily 5 to 6 times a week, but at a low intensity, just something casual, fulfilling, and then every once in a while, crank it up, right? But are we going to do a high intensity workout every time we work out? No, right? What I tell people on a regular basis is you want to live in the easy to medium intensity levels and do them on a frequent basis. There's no cap really on the amount of easy things you can do on your day-to-day basis. So walking, foam rolling, stretching, walking up a hill, doing just like a set of something, that there's no cap. And then medium, there's not really a cap either, but there's a cap on how many hard times you can do it a week. So now putting this with the red light therapy, infrared, you can do it every day. You can go outside and get sun on a daily basis. But are you trying to be at the highest intensity all the time? No. But every once in a while, that's good. So we want to do like every once in a while at a higher intensity to get some exposure. But like Scott said, you're not going to get the long-term benefits if you don't have a consistency. You'll get some short-term immediate benefits just like exercise. So with exercise, you'll get that relief. You'll feel good in the short term, but is there any change that's actually going to occur No, there's not, right? You have to do it on a consistent basis so that your body is able to adapt and recognize a change in patterns. Is that right?
Yep. That's 100%, man. Yeah, that's it does take consistent use. I mean, exercise again is a great analogy. The only really exception is that occasionally somebody will use the device one time and then tell us that they felt like they slept better. So that would be, that, and I usually tell like first time users or early users, like pay attention to your sleep. Let me know like what you notice, because that's the one thing that you might notice in an acute basis, like is that you just, for whatever reason, you're sleeping better. Could be the melatonin, it could be some other mechanism that we don't know yet. But the other benefits, the skin, the performance, the mood, they take time.
Well, all of those benefits that you're naming are also benefits of when you get enough sunlight.
They are. They are. And again, I always start the conversation by talking about the sun, talking about how we're all sunlight deficient. And really, that should be the first line of defense. Like if you can habit your life to get outside a little bit more, I think you're going to benefit by doing that. I mean, I'm a big fan of an afternoon or a lunchtime walk. I'm a big fan of getting out first thing in the morning. But it's just difficult to get nearly as much as we have evolved to get, given our lifestyle. So again, like having this as a fallback supplementation option, I think is a good idea.
Totally. Again, saying this one more time, guys, the benefits of red light therapy are the similar to same benefits as just getting sunlight.
Yep.
So the question is now, is red light therapy effective or a gimmick? Well, it's just a supplementation to sunlight. Is taking a protein supplement a gimmick? Is taking a vitamin D supplement a gimmick? Is taking uh, omegas, omega supplements a gimmick? No. The answer is, does it make sense for you? Right? So, what would you say are some of the biggest misconceptions that you have to deal with regularly in this business that you hear about?
Well, I think people, because there's so many different products on the market, and it's a difficult thing to explain, like the dosing parameters, and because the analogy that I use, so photobiomodulation or using red and near infrared light for like a therapeutic purpose, which is just trying to deliver a reasonable amount of light in a reasonable amount of time. The analogy I use is the Thanksgiving turkey analogy. And that's, because I think people understand this. So if you take the butterball turkey, you put it in the oven at 400 degrees for 4 hours, you're probably going to have a pretty good Thanksgiving, right? And that's 1600 degree hours, right? So 4 hours times 400 degrees, right? But if I take that same turkey and I cook it at 1600 degrees for 1 hour, I'm going to get a completely different result. And if I cook that turkey at 100 degrees for 16 hours, I'm also going to get a completely different result, right? In the first example, I'm going to have a charcoal briquette because 1600 degrees is going to roast that thing, even though it's an hour. And in the second example, I'm barely going to unfreeze the turkey because 100 degrees is not really going to cook it. So what people need to understand is that to do this properly, you have to have the right intensity and the right duration. Intensity in this example is temperature, so 400 degrees, and duration in the turkey example is 4 hours. But so the misconception is that you can just buy any red light and get benefits, and that's not the case. It has to give the right intensity, and then the manufacturer should be giving you the good guidance on the duration. Because maybe in the turkey analogy, maybe 350 degrees for 4.5 hours might be pretty close, and you might be in the window. But so that's the main thing. I mean, there's a lot of junk on the market, although I will say the market's gotten a lot better in the past 7 years in terms of the quality. Like when we first started, it was total Wild West. Now it's only kind of the minor Wild West. But, I think I would like to think that we've had a lot to do with that in terms of trying to raise the bar for quality of the build of the products, publishing our independent testing on the intensity, and really trying to set standards for, what is a largely unregulated market. So again, the biggest misconception is that, you can just buy some cheap thing. And that actually bothers me too, because there's a lot of skepticism, and unfortunately, I think it comes from people buying cheap crap. Excuse my French,
That's
and then not getting a benefit, and then thinking that it doesn't work. And the reality is, the products have to be properly designed.
So one of the biggest misconceptions is quality, right? Not being just buying something on Amazon because you heard it on this podcast, but like really actually investing in something more quality that gets the job done. Okay, so
That's
now
right,
we're yeah,
and where they publish the data, and you know exactly the intensity of light that's reaching the body, because otherwise you don't know what temperature you're cooking the turkey. And
totally.
so, like, if they can't publish that, and by the way, these are very difficult to measure. It really needs to be measured in a lab or with a spectral radiometer, which is a very expensive piece of equipment. You can't just buy a light meter because those meters are not calibrated. Most light meters are calibrated to measure sunlight. This is very specific parts of the sunlight. They're not calibrated to measure these, and so you can't use those. So it's a very difficult thing to explain to somebody that's not familiar with joules or irradiance and all these technical terms. But I would just say, at least go to a company where they test in a laboratory, they publish the data. They're probably doing things the right way.
So now we're talking to, so we've convinced a whole group of people now to do red light therapy, right? But not everyone can really invest in like high quality equipment. I think one misconception that I've had with red light therapy is that it's like a fancy rich person type of method, right? But now I've been educated, right? Now I understand that it's a lot more than just that it really is an essential supplementation tool. But now, again, we've convinced a whole group of audience, people who make a lot of money, people who don't make a lot of money. So what do we tell the people who don't make a lot of money how to go about this and expose themselves to red light therapy? Because we just also said that quality matters and that we're
Yep.
not just looking to buy a random cheap thing, which is probably what a lot of people would do who don't have a lot of money to invest. What would you say to those people who have now been convinced, they're sold, but they don't really have a lot of disposable income to invest in good quality red lights?
So I would say to get a panel. So one of the things you can do to really understand if it's built well is like a panel like I have behind me. Uh, it's got a very sterile metal housing, and it has focusing lenses with heat sinks and active cooling. So there are fans in there which are actively cooling the LEDs. This is going to be the best bang for the buck in terms of the light energy you get, but also in terms of durability. So if you're on a budget, think of this as a long-term investment for your health, right? So we have different, one of the things we've tried to do is our company is make it accessible. So we have expensive panels with a lot of features, but we also have very well built basic panels with not a lot of features, and they're super easy to use. Tabletop like this, $249. It's pretty accessible for most people, $250. And it puts out a lot of light. And it'll last many, many years if you properly care for it too. So you can use it to supplement light on a daily basis for years and years and years, because LEDs last forever, pretty much. What will fail eventually will be probably the driver, but we warranty these for 3 years. Properly cared for, it could last much, much longer. We've got devices we sold in 2019 that run for 10 hours a day in a gym, still going strong. But again, the build quality's got to be there. If it's cheap or if it's plastic, it's not going to last several years. And so the build quality is there, but it's an investment. And I think a couple $100 is accessible for just about everybody, especially if you think about it being a long-term investment.
So, guys, overall, this is an investment in your health. Just like getting a trainer, just like getting a Theragun, it's an investment. And what he's really saying also is that there's not really a great cheap solution. So you have to really think about it's a relatively simple piece of equipment to use. It has low maintenance that's required. So you don't need to have a degree to be able to run this thing. And it lasts a really long time. So if we break down the price per usage, you're getting a great value. So let's say
Yep.
you spend $300 and you use it. I don't even need to do the math. You do it a couple times per week, 4 years. It ends
Yep.
up being like dollar or cents per use. So that is really how you have to think about this. So $300 is not that much, but for some people it's tight, but they know they need it. Well, it's worth the investment, right? It's worth the investment. You're going to get a lot of usage out of it. So don't feel like this is like a one-time session with like a doctor or chiropractor or me where you're spending a lot of money and then like that's it, right? This is an ongoing piece of equipment that you can use for a long time. So
And
that
not
is,
only that, well, your family members can use it too, right? I mean, like mom can use it on her face for skin health. Dad can use it on his lower back, because he's got a back issue. I mean, it's very safe too. So it's very hard to do it wrong. I mean, and so and it's very versatile, in terms of the different use cases. And so, in terms of health investments, I mean, I'm kind of an outlier. Like I buy just about, I like to try everything. I mean, I've been a biohacker for 20 years. So if there's a new supplement, I'll buy it. New piece of equipment, I'll buy it. It's part of the reason I'm sitting here. But as far as, in my experience, like return on investment, I mean, this is as high as it gets in the health and wellness space, right? You can spend a lot of money on a lot of different things. And this, relatively speaking, is very inexpensive for what you get.
well, also to a degree, it's very essential. So now that we understand that red light is really just like the sun, right? It's the light that we're getting already from the sun. That is essential for your body.
The
So
safest parts of the solar spectrum, like that's another way to think about it. You're not getting the UV, you're not getting the thermal infrared. You really literally we're carving out like the safest part of the sun.
100%. But then we ask the question, is going outside and getting sunlight essential for the body? The answer is yes. So is red light therapy an essential purchase for you? Yeah, it might be. It might be, because is going outside and getting sunlight essential? Yes. So now the question you have to ask is, do you get enough sunlight? Is your lifestyle designed where you go get enough sunlight? Do you live in a place that has a lot of sunlight? If you have things that are out of whack, there could be a lot of potential leads into what your problem is. But one of them might be a lack of light. So to a degree, you're either getting your sunlight or you're trying to now get exposure to red light therapy. And I actually have a quick question. I just thought of it. So what's the difference between, if you can answer this, like, so I don't do red light therapy, but I am vitamin D deficient. Right now I'm taking some vitamin D supplements. Does red light therapy help eliminate me needing to take a vitamin D supplement?
Unfortunately, no, because what you need to spur the body to make vitamin D is UVB light. And UVB light is only available typically midday, like between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. or thereabouts, depending on your latitude. So like right now in Phoenix, I can still get a decent amount of UVB because we're pretty far south. I think in New York or Boston, like they're reaching the end of the window for them to get any UVB to make vitamin D, and they won't be available to them until March, because winter and they're in further latitude. So yeah, UVB light for vitamin D, and it really depends on the time of day, time of year, and your latitude about whether or not it's even available. That's in contrast to infrared, which is available to us all day long, as if the sun's above the horizon. But that's why I argue that it's an even bigger deficiency, because our ancestors would have been getting it all day long, and now we get nothing. And so either way, my argument would be you're sunlight deficient. If you're low in vitamin D, you do need UVB light. To me, vitamin D supplementation is a band-aid. That's kind of a whole nother story. You should try to get UVB light. Maybe there's safe ways to do that. Or actually, you're in LA, so you should be able to get out midday and still get some, at least
No
for another
problem.
month or two.
No problem. No problem for me. No problem for me
But you
personally.
just have to make a point to do it, and you have to expose as much of your skin as you possibly can too. So go out at noon, take your shirt off would be the ideal way to do it, and at least 10, 15 minutes, I think is a good way to do it. Um, But either way, I mean, see, the vitamin D deficiency is like most people are familiar with it, but to me, like the root cause is it's the same story that we're sunlight deficient. It's just a different part of the spectrum that you happen to be. We know that you're deficient in. There is no biomarker for that we're aware of yet for for infrared light deficiency. We know UVB light deficiency. The biomarker we measure is vitamin D. And that's actually been an interesting field of study if somebody could develop a biomarker to identify if you're infrared light deficient. But for now, I'm presuming that just about everybody is because of how we live our modern lifestyles.
All right, that's very interesting. So the different types of sun you get during the day is different, and vitamin D is not necessarily connected with infrared, but it's still just highlighting the importance of, again, needing to get light, needing to get that type of light for our skin and our body to absorb. And it has to be outside of your home, except if you have an infrared piece of equipment. So even if you have an infrared, you can still go outside and get sun, but we're now adding the two. And if you just don't get any sun, then getting that some type of red lighting can be really, really beneficial. So for someone like me who, lives a very active lifestyle, and I am lucky to be able to go outside pretty much whenever I want, besides if I'm with my clients. So now you're prescribing me red light therapy. Like, what do you, the CEO of Mito Red Light, recommend for me, Ben, the trainer, and how I would use it for my lifestyle?
So I would still suggest that you get a panel, largest that you'd be willing to invest in, relative to your budget, and still use it regularly. I still think that you're going to benefit, primarily for somebody like you who's putting large demands on your body, just to support your recovery. I mean, to the extent that you're getting sunlight regularly, that's great. You should continue to do that. Although, if your vitamin D is low, that's a signal that you're not getting enough sun. So that's to consider that. I think it's kind of hard to overdo it, frankly. So if you're the Hudson tribe or maybe a UPS driver and you're not putting hard demands on your body, probably can get away without it. But other than that, I do think that you will see a benefit. I mean, I would say try it and tell me what you notice, right? Do you notice that you're getting less sore after a hard training session? Do you notice that you're sleeping better? Do you notice improvements in your skin? Those would be the things that I would, ask you to kind of take notice of. Do you notice improvement in your mood? Do you just feel better, especially right after you use it? And if you notice any of those things, then I would say keep doing it.
So would you say for me, it's a great thing to do after a workout then?
It's interesting, and even on the exercise, we're still learning so much because I've had this question and I can't even give you a definitive answer. When is the best time to use it for performance and recovery? In some, you can make an argument that it's better to do it immediately before exercise because you're basically giving your body more energy to work with, and that way maybe how you would best use it for performance, and then maybe for recovery, it would be better to do it immediately after exercise. I think if the foremost experts in the space, when they're asked this question, they say just use it, and that there isn't a definitive answer whether or not to use it immediately before or after. Just use it to get the benefit. And so the answer is I don't know yet, but as soon as I find out, I'll let you know.
For sure. And then for a regular person sitting at their desk on a regular basis, just like use it anytime during the day.
Yeah, my practical advice is just, because we all have busy schedules, and so use it when you're most likely to actually use it. Whatever your for me, getting it out of the way in the morning is, I shouldn't say getting it out of the way, but getting it done in the morning is because my day gets busy. I have my kids at home, and then sometimes the day gets away from me and I don't do it. And so for me, having it part of my morning routine is what works best for me. I would just say try to do it anytime the sun is above the horizon, because that's, again, like anytime the sun's above the horizon, you would be getting infrared. So just try to do it anytime during the day, whenever you can fit it into your schedule.
For sure. Yeah, I have so many good questions to ask you. We've already been on this episode for over an hour, so that's really great. But let's finish off of where do you see the industry has grown a lot. Where do you see it in 10 years from now?
So I think that what the big macro trends I see are this, obviously AI is kind of a big buzzword right now, but using technology and data to personalize things. And it's one of the things I'm working hard on and spending a lot of time thinking about is how can we better inform usage of our devices. And so part of that is gathering data from users and seeing like what they're saying is working for them versus what's not. That could be wavelength, that could be time of day, that could be temporal association with exercise before or after. It could be the duration of the session. It could be some combination of all those things. There could be individual variability. I mean, there's so many variables, and I really would like to start collecting data so that we can start personalizing recommendations based on all of the factors I just mentioned. And I think that we're reaching a point, it's kind of exciting, because AI is creating these tools that at a minimum will help us analyze the data and make sense of the data, because we're talking about large amounts of data and all these different variables. And it's kind of hard for a scientific study. A scientific study, you usually have to control all the variables and just have maybe like one, independent variable. But we want to collect data on all of these dependent variables simultaneously and hopefully layer on AI to make sense of it all. So where I see the industry going is kind of that. Hopefully we'll have a hand in that. Putting devices out into the wilderness, getting people to use them, collecting the data on what's working, letting AI analyze the data, and really starting to really move the needle on personalizing recommendations depending on what the use case is, and then that can inform scientific studies, and we can get this kind of flywheel of much faster improvement in the product development, and basically just helping people better.
Totally. So it's kind of, you see the trend going into what I asked, which was because I asked like a custom recommendation, and you see the future of this becoming a much more accurate, customized part of people's programming. But like precisely for like when you need it, what you should be using it for, rather than just like using it
Yeah,
just like a more data driven decision making process on when and how and why we should be using it.
exactly. One of the things that's tough and frustrating is 7 years in doing this, the general guidance that I give people is has not changed, and it's like, use it 4 to 6 times a week, and I think about 10 minutes is probably pretty good, and that's just general guidance, and that's, I think it's just, the feedback we've gotten from we've got over 100,000 customers now, is that seems to be like pretty on target, but boy, that's so general. And it's what if you want to use it for sleep? What if you want to use it for recovery? Right? Like, I don't have the data yet to really give any sort of specific recommendations on how to change the use. And so that's where we need to get to.
Totally. Well, I'm on their website and they got a lot of great endorsements using it. One of the hot receivers this year, Ricky Pearsall. I always mess up his last name, but he's a stud. He's a client of Mito Red Light. And then you got some MLB athletes, and then you've got Garrett Williams, pro cornerback. So they've got some really great clients. And like he said, they have over 100,000 different customers at the moment. So really great to have you on the show and discuss it and educate me so I can educate more people. Is there any last thing you want to share with the audience, Scott?
No, well, first of all, I really appreciate your time in the conversation. I would just say that, you know, we're here to educate people on the importance of light and health, and really to kind of change the narrative and make it more of a centerpiece. Like I said earlier, diet, exercise, sleep, mindset, those things, everybody talks about. We need to be talking more about our light environment. And I think that if we do that, that will have a happier and healthier population. And I think that's certainly needed in the current moment. So that's really our mission. So I would say, if you're interested in light, you can check us out, read our blog, send us an email, and we're happy to help.
Yeah, we'll definitely have the information in the description in the podcast and the blog that I will eventually get to. And guys, let's get our light. He said that you'll be happier, and that's true. If you go and get more sunlight, if you get more positive lighting on your skin and in your body, you absolutely will feel better about yourself. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. And until next time, have a great rest of your day. Take care.